Attention local government leaders, don't miss Fast Track 2025, Victoria's premier councillor leadership forum, happening Friday, May the 2nd. Join us for an intensive day focused on leading with integrity, featuring an exceptional lineup including Melbourne Lord Mayor Nick Rees, Victorian Ombudsman Marlo Barraguareth and IBAC CEO Alison Byrne. Gain valuable insights on conduct, fraud prevention and CEO management while networking with industry peers. Plus, enjoy a special keynote from comedian Anthony Lamo-Learman. Fast Track 2025, equipping you with the tools to serve your community better. Register now at the VLGA website. E-scooter operators bail on the City of Yarra. Hepburn Shire denies its rate increase proposal is linked to a failed development project. A northeast community concerned about biosecurity waste. A call to delay the glass recycling bin rollout. Startling bullying claims about a New South Wales council. Back to the drawing board for a GM recruitment process. Plus a Queensland CEO stepping down. Launceston Council calls in the police. And Perth's Lord Mayor bids farewell. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy and this is the Local Government News Roundup for Monday the 24th of March. Also today, Emma Broomfield drops by for a debrief on the recent Political Wellbeing Summit. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. E-scooter operators Lime and Neuron are set to cease operations in the City of Yarra following a dramatic increase in council fees. The Age reported that the operators have labelled the council's decision to raise daily per scooter fees from $1 to $5 as totally unsustainable. The two companies will withdraw their combined fleet of 500 e-scooters by early April. Mayor Stephen Jolly told The Age that it wasn't the council's intention to force the operators out. The council has issued a statement expressing its disappointment in the decision, but says that it will not continue to subsidise the services from ratepayers' money. Neuron and Lime's e-scooters will be removed over the coming weeks, but Lime's e-bikes will remain in place. The Mayor of Hepburn Shire, Don Henderson, insists the council's proposed 10% rate increase is not linked to the controversial failed Rex Theatre development project, according to a report from the Ballarat Courier. The council is seeking to increase rates by 7% above the rate cap, despite recording a $5.65 million loss on the failed Rex Community Hub project in Daylesford. A leaked local government inspectorate report revealed the council purchased the Rex building in 2016 without an independent valuation and at $1.6 million above its previous sale price. The project's estimated costs later ballooned from $1 million to nearly $10 million before works were suspended in 2018. Mayor Henderson maintains the rate increase is necessary due to rising operational costs and natural disaster recovery expenses. A decision on the rate variation application is expected next month. There are heightened concerns in the Rutherglen community about the disposal of biosecurity waste by Agriculture Victoria related to an aviation influenza outbreak in Euroa. Indigo Shire Mayor Sophie Price said the council was not informed until last week and had been seeking answers to a range of questions in response to concern and anxiety in the community. It's published Agriculture Victoria's responses about the type of contaminated waste being disposed of and why it's being transported to Rutherglen. Agriculture Victoria has committed to providing ongoing information about the issue to Indigo Shire, which has not been involved in the planning or approval process, as the activities are exempt from council permit requirements. A coalition of metropolitan and regional councils is calling on Environment Minister Steve Dimopoulos to review the July 2027 deadline for implementing separate glass recycling bins. Kylie Spears, the Mayor of Maroondah, which is one of more than 30 councils behind the push, said the program will cost councils around $4 million to implement, with households facing an additional $27 annual charge. The councils argue that expanding the existing container deposit scheme to include wine and spirit bottles could achieve similar environmental benefits at a fraction of the cost. Councillor Spears said the Queensland and South Australian governments have already chosen this alternative approach. Tensions are running high in the Kiewa Valley over a proposed battery storage facility, highlighting growing divisions over renewable energy projects in regional Australia. ABC News reported that more than 200 residents packed the Mount Beauty Town Hall to voice their opposition to a planned 400 megawatt-hour battery installation near Dedarang. Alpine Shire Council has voted to lobby against the project and holds concerns about environmental impact and bushfire risks. Independent MP Helen Haynes says communities generally support renewables but want more say in their implementation. 3 councils in Melbourne's north, Hume, Darebin and Merribeck, are collaborating to launch an anti-racism support booklet, providing information about protection, reporting options and support services. A 2023 survey revealed that while 75% of residents experienced racism, most were unsure where to report it or feared lack of support. The initiative is targeting Melbourne's northern suburbs with their significant migrant communities and was launched on the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The Cobblebank Community Services Hub, a 6-level 5 Green Star rated facility, is set to begin construction later this year. The $19.6 million City of Melton project will provide essential services, including mental health, family support and culturally specific programs. The project is funded through contributions from both the Australian Government and the Victorian Government, and it's expected to be operational by late next year. And Horsham Rural City Council is seeking community feedback on whether to permanently remove or reinstate parking meters in the city centre following their temporary suspension last December. The council has made surveys available online and in paper format for business operators and community members to share their experiences and thoughts on how the parking meter suspension has affected accessibility, convenience and parking behaviour in the area. In today's Victorian News Briefs, Frankston Mayor Chris Bolam says a federal government commitment of $50 million to rejuvenate the Nepean Highway will be a catalyst for the city's transformation. The funding will support the implementation of the Nepean Boulevard Master Plan and broader city centre revitalisation efforts. Kingston residents are being called on to provide feedback on developments that will shape their neighbourhoods following the state government's unveiling of plans for new precincts around the suburban rail loop. The plans for Cheltenham and Clayton precincts include proposals for buildings ranging from 4 to 18 stories. And Mayor Georgina Oxley is encouraging community members to review and comment by April 22. And Alpine Shire Council is proposing to integrate the Dinner Plain Alpine Village into its commercial and industrial differential rating strategy, moving away from the current special rate system. The change aims to streamline the rating process and ensure equitable distribution under the rate cap. The proposal is set for public consultation before the final revenue and rating plan is adopted later in the year. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Monday the 24th of March. Thank you for joining us. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association with its flagship councillor development program, Fast Track, coming up on Friday the 2nd of May. Registration's now open on the VLGA website. And support for the podcast comes from Symphony 3, which has developed Smart Glue, a platform that integrates over 55 council systems, automating data flow without the need for manual work, turning confusion into simplicity. Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Heading our New South Wales report today, a state MP has made startling claims in Parliament about the work environment for female employees at Shellharbour Council. The Illawarra Mercury reported the comments made by member for Shellharbour, Anna Watson, who said female employees at the council have been begging for help over workplace bullying. Ms Watson said she'd received anonymous letters describing workplace bullying and harassment from some senior officials and that she held grave concerns for the women. She was speaking in support of a bill to establish Safe Work as a standalone regulator. Goulburn Mulwaree Council has announced it will restart its search for a new general manager after the initial recruitment round failed to identify a preferred candidate. Mayor Nina Dillon says while there was strong interest in the position, Council believes additional steps are necessary to find a candidate who truly aligns with community needs. In the interim, Marina Hollins will continue serving as Acting Chief Executive Officer. The Council maintains the decision reflects their commitment to securing the right leadership for the region's future development. In other Goulburn-Mulwaree news, the council is seeking funding to establish a special entertainment precinct to cover the CBD of Goulburn. The precinct would provide certainty of trading hours and sound conditions to support live performances. If successful in gaining funding, an engagement process will be conducted about a 12 to 18-month trial of the precinct. Willoughby Council has reported a successful trial of its new public and open forums format. 13 speakers participated in the March 17 forum, both in person and online. Mayor Tanya Taylor praised the community's engagement with the new format. She said the strong turnout and productive discussions show the format is working well for the community. Currently, residents must register 2 business days before speaking at forums, but the council is considering reducing this to same-day registration in future. 5 Western Sydney councils, including Hawkesbury, have drafted a plan to deliver 3,600 new affordable rental dwellings over 10 years, addressing the growing housing affordability crisis in the region. The plan is the result of a collaboration of Hawkesbury, Blue Mountains, Blacktown, Camden and Wallandilly councils. The plan will be introduced from March 2028 and involves collecting monetary contributions from new developments to fund affordable rental housing that will be managed by the not-for-profit community housing sector. The City of Newcastle has commenced work on 2 major infrastructure projects along the Bathers Way coastal precinct, including stabilising a cliff face near Dixon Park and maintaining a seawall near South Newcastle Beach. The essential works aim to ensure public safety and longevity of the coastal infrastructure while causing minimal disruption to the community through strategic timing outside the summer period. And a groundbreaking microclimate study in Sydney has revealed temperature differences of up to 15 degrees between harbourside suburbs and southern areas, with St Peter's recording 45.3 degrees, while the Royal Botanic Garden stayed at 30 degrees during the hottest day of the study period. The City of Sydney, in partnership with Western Sydney University, collected 1.5 million measurements between December 2023 and March 2024, finding that areas near green spaces had lower temperatures, while places like Central Station and Haymarket were among the warmest. In response to the findings, the city is actively working to increase tree canopy coverage to 40% by 2050, having already planted over 17,000 street trees and reduced 76% of emissions in its operations since 2006. More New South Wales Council briefs. Edward River Council has reduced standpipe water fees from $11 to $4 per kilolitre for the remainder of the financial year to support rural communities with affordable water access. The council operates 2 permanent bulk water filling facilities, which are crucial for properties outside the reticulated water main system, especially given current conditions. Wagga Wagga City Council is launching Wagga Leisure, a unified brand to encompass multiple recreation facilities, including the Oasis Aquatic Centre and the Jim Elphick Tennis Centre. The new brand rollout includes flexible membership packages for residents while maintaining all existing services and casual access options. Wilcannia has been approved as an RV-friendly town by the Campervan and Motorhome Club of Australia for offering facilities like street parking, overnight stays at Victory Caravan Park and essential amenities for travellers. Central Darling Shire Council said the designation will bring tourism benefits to Wilcannia through promotions reaching over 68,000 club members. And the City of Parramatta has unveiled Creative Parramatta, a 10-year cultural strategy aimed at transforming the city into a cultural and creative hub. The strategy focuses on 5 key priorities, including First Nations recognition, cultural practice, infrastructure, education and leadership. It's open for public feedback until the 14th of April. On to Queensland now, and Sunshine Coast Council has received approval from the Queensland Government for planning provisions that will encourage the development of upscale hotels in Maroochydore and Caloundra, marking the first luxury hotel development in the region in over 30 years. The initiative aims to add to the current accommodation landscape, where 70% is self-catering apartments, by introducing new 4-star and above hotels. Each new hotel is projected to generate $29.5 million annually in economic impact and create hundreds of jobs, with the region requiring around 2,500 new hotel rooms over the next decade. The Sunshine Coast News reports that the Jeffrey Thomas Family Trust has appealed to the Planning and Environment Court to overturn Sunshine Coast Council's refusal of their proposed 38-unit short-term accommodation complex at Bald Knob. The developers argue the project would protect scenic values and meet council benchmarks, contrary to the council's concerns about the development's urban nature and impact on the rural precinct's visual amenity. Charters Towers Regional Council CEO Martin Drydale has announced his resignation effective on May the 16th after serving 3 years in the role. Mayor Liz Schmidt said it was disappointing to receive the resignation and acknowledged Mr Drydale's positive leadership and commitment to the organisation. Mr Drydale said it was a carefully considered decision and that the time is right to embark on the next chapter of his life. In Tasmania, Launceston City Council has reported American singer Ronnie Radke to Tasmania Police after he posted an aggressive online video targeting local councillors who had expressed concerns about a photo taken with Mayor Matthew Garwood after a recent concert in Adelaide. Pulse Tasmania reported the controversy arose when councillors, particularly Andrea Dawkins, questioned the appropriateness of the mayor posing with Radke, who has a history of domestic violence and assault charges. The situation escalated when Radke responded with a hostile video, sharing Dawkins's contact information and making threats. In a weekend post to Facebook, CEO Sam Johnson has condemned the singer's actions for using social media to incite harassment, describing them as dangerous and irresponsible, as well as reckless and unacceptable. He confirmed that the council is working with Tasmania Police to monitor the situation and has reported the video to Instagram, demanding Radke retract his inflammatory statements. 6 Greater Hobart councils have launched a joint campaign called We Stand Together Against Racism to celebrate cultural diversity and combat racial discrimination in their communities. The campaign launch featured a solidarity walk along Hobart's waterfront, led by council mayors, CEOs and former Tasmanian Premier Peter Gutwein, coinciding with the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The campaign was developed collaboratively between Brighton, Clarence, Hobart, Glenorchy, Kingborough and Sorell councils. Break a Day Council has unanimously rejected a Telstra proposal to build a 26.3-metre telecommunications tower in St Helens, citing visual amenity concerns and height restriction violations. Pulse Tasmania reported the decision is a significant setback for mobile coverage in the region, particularly during peak tourist periods when network congestion is severe. Telstra is considering appealing the decision at the Tasmanian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. To South Australia, the City of Mount Gambier and the District Council of Grant are jointly advocating for improved regional air travel through a motion to be presented at the Australian Local Government Association's National General Assembly in June. The motion calls for increased federal investment in regional airports, fairer pricing policies and better service reliability, addressing concerns about the 52% higher costs for regional flights compared to capital city routes. The scrutiny and count has been conducted for a supplementary election in the Central Ward of Mount Barker District Council. Jeanette Size was declared provisionally elected with more than 25% of first preference votes from a field of 8 candidates. Ms Size replaces Sally Harding, who tendered her resignation in November after 2 years. Outgoing Perth Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis has shared a parting message with residents as he prepares to enter state parliament. He said he's loved being the 18th Lord Mayor of the city and nominated a range of highlights from his time in the role, headed by the activation of the city, a world-class events program and the lowest rate rises of any major Perth council. This week, the council will consider whether to support a request to allow the position of Lord Mayor to remain vacant until ordinary local government elections scheduled for October. Council papers show the cost of an extraordinary election for Lord Mayor would be approximately $86,000. And a controversial proposal to subdivide a 104.6 hectare farm in Springfield, Busselton into 66 rural residential lots will return to the council this week after being delayed in December due to concerns over lot sizes and density. The City of Busselton has suggested adjustments to increase the minimum lot size to 2 hectares with an average of 4 hectares. The Busselton Dunsborough Times reports the councillors could also choose to delay further, decline the proposal or request independent modifications from the developers. More news briefs from around the country. The City of Greater Geraldton has secured funding to review and update its list of nearly 700 heritage places. The $50,000 review aims to balance heritage conservation with new development opportunities while ensuring the protection of historically significant buildings, homes and places. The Tasmanian Government is transferring administration of the Councillor Learning and Development Framework to the Local Government Association of Tasmania, with the transition to be completed by July. Central Highlands Regional Council in Queensland is seeking expressions of interest for surplus vacant land across the region, with the goal of encouraging development in housing, aged care and essential infrastructure. The council says it's aiming to support sustainable growth while addressing housing demand. And an additional $570,000 in road and footpath upgrades is set to improve accessibility and safety in Maryborough. Fraser Coast Mayor George Seymour said the projects would also deliver better drainage as part of a $1.75 million curb and channel replacement project funded through the Works for Queensland program. Recently on the podcast, I welcomed Emma Broomfield from Local Learning to talk about the Political Wellbeing Summit, a 3-day event aimed at confronting the growing issue of mental wellbeing for elected representatives in light of some pretty disturbing statistics. Today, Emma is back for a debrief. Welcome back, Emma.
Thanks for having me back, Chris. It's wonderful to be here.
How did the event go? It was a big one, wasn't it? 3 days of intensive work for people.
Yes, it was a big event. We held it at the end of February over 3 days, and we started off with an international panel event with people from across the world sharing their perspectives, and then followed that up with 2 half-day sessions exploring our political wellbeing framework for councillors with a range of guests, including councillors and subject experts. So it was a really big event, but we did that deep dive because we really wanted to do justice to the topic and to explore it in a meaningful way with people. So it was great. We had people from every state in Australia there. So there was people represented across every state. We had councillors, general managers, council staff, as well as organisations working in the political leadership space who were interested in particular in the conversation and the international perspective around this as well. And interestingly, I would say we had a high representation from female mayors.
Right. Oh, okay. And what do you put that down to?
I think that is because they are at the front line of leadership and the leadership of their council and their community, and I think some of the pressures that are experienced are felt quite acutely by people in those positions.
Yeah. So in terms of outcomes, takeaways, what sort of jumps out at you as a key learning from this event?
One of the key learnings is this is a conversation that people really want to have, and by hosting the summit, we really generated a lot of interest in the topic, would be the first thing. Lots of people reaching out to me in the lead up to the summit saying, this is fantastic that you're talking about this. This is so timely. It's so important. We really need to do more in this space. We're not doing enough, would be the first thing I would say. The other insight is in relation to the global perspective on this, is that it is an issue across lots of different countries. So in the work that we've been doing, we've connected with others working in the space, in particular Apolitical Foundation, who is really leading the work and released their Mere Mortals report a couple of years ago now. But also in Canada, so Jordan Simmons from Nominee is doing similar work in Canada. Skippy Mesereau's doing similar work in the States and is leading the way there. And then more locally in Australia, Chloe Spackman from Next 25 is doing some amazing work in the space, particularly in federal and state levels of government. And there's just so many similarities across those jurisdictions in terms of the pressures that our elected leaders are facing, including councillors. So it's not just an Australian thing. It is something that's happening in other democracies, which was a key insight really from the summit as well.
Were the participants able to come away with some tools or strategies, perhaps, and a positivity about being armed to be able to deal with the issue?
Yes, and that's what we really wanted to do by leading people through our framework. So the summit was also the launch of our political wellbeing framework, which covers 8 elements, which we believe either bolster or detract from local councillors' wellbeing and therefore their performance and impact. And it's really important to make that connection between wellbeing and actual performance, because there is a real outcome to that. So we intentionally guided participants through the 8 elements in our framework, and each element includes a supportive mindset that a councillor can adopt to bolster that aspect of their wellbeing, as well as a set of micro skills. So there's 9 micro skills in each element, which, if they're focused on, can also improve your wellbeing. So it's a very practical resource. And so we had a guest for each element, either a councillor, current or former, or we had someone with expertise in that particular element. And in some cases, we were lucky that we had some who were both councillors and experts on the topic, which is great. And each of those shared some really practical tools through those sessions around what councillors can do to bolster their wellbeing in that particular element. So just to give an example there, around relationships and conflict, that's one of our elements. Anne-Marie Cade, who's a former mayor in Victoria, spoke to that, and she shared lots of practical ways councillors can really constructively deal with conflict in their roles, so they can be not only keep themselves well, but also be effective in their job as well.
Anne-Marie's been on the podcast a couple of times in the past, is a friend of the Roundup, and I believe there's some other mayors that mentioned they'd heard you on the podcast, so the message is getting out there, we hope.
Yes, definitely. Yes, the word is. And what was also interesting for me is there was former councillors reaching out to me saying, this is so important, this conversation. I was there. It was like this when I was a councillor. And importantly, things haven't changed.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You want to come away with some positivity about being able to deal with this issue and come out of it stronger at the end. But of course, then there's also that recognition, as you've just said, the problem's been there for a long time. What can we change? Well, obviously we can change how we deal with it.
Correct. And that's what our framework is based on. It's certainly based on the individual being able to take action in areas that they can control. That's really important. And the 8 elements really speak to that. So just briefly, the 8 elements are motivation and attitude, which interestingly, when we asked the question, what's the number one factor that bolsters your wellbeing? That was it.
Right.
So, and that motivation to serve and to be making a difference is so key to people's mental wellbeing. So motivation, attitude, number 1, time and capacity, number 2, relationships and conflict was the next one, which actually cuts across pretty much all of them because it's so pervasive in local government. Ethical action is number 4, technical know-how is number 5, digital safety, number 6. Now, that was the one when we asked the question, what's the factor that most negatively impacts your wellbeing? Unsurprisingly, digital safety came out top
which
there.
Picks up the whole social media.
Correct.
Elements.
Correct. And so being safe online. And then number 7 is around social connection, which is about actually feeling connected to your community, because we do know that a lot of councillors, particularly in rural regional areas, can feel a sense of isolation. And then finally, physical and mental health. So those 8 elements we've designed and identified to say, well, as a councillor, yes, we know all this other stuff's happening in the broader world. There's systemic issues, there's cultural issues, but it's pretty hard to change some of that, and that change does take time. So our framework really looks at it from within and says, well, these are the things that you can do in a practical way, in a supportive way, to turn up to lead your community to the best of your capacity, and really be well when you do that.
Yeah. So I'm really pleased to hear that so many people got so much out of this event. Would you do it again?
Yes is the answer. Well, we have had feedback from the summit people interested to do something like this in person, because the summit was wholly online. And so, yes, we're definitely looking at how we can continue to roll this out into the future. And for us, really, the summit is just the beginning of the work that we're doing in this space as well, because it really did unite people who are interested in the topic, brought together different thought leaders, and is the beginning of a real conversation around this topic. So yes, we'll definitely be continuing something in the future. We'll also be shortly releasing some resources on our website, which we'll be calling a Political Wellbeing Resource Centre, so councillors can access resources to support themselves at that personal level, and also importantly, councils who are interested in elevating the conversation within their elected council, building a culture around this within their council as well, will be able to access resources and start to integrate our framework into their thinking. Because this is one other insight that came out of it, is that we've done a great job of talking about wellbeing, mental health for employees, but councillors have been left in the dark a little bit. Right. And they're lagging behind in that conversation, and some interesting reasons why that's the case. But we definitely know that they're lagging behind.
Great to have you doing this work and to have you back on to let us know how it went. I know you're conducting a survey at the moment. Let's just give that a quick plug before we wrap up.
Yes, so this survey is actually being conducted by the Apolitical Foundation and Compassion in Politics from the UK, and it is focused on Australian politicians. And the survey is seeking to understand the state of play of the mental health of our elected leaders in Australia at the moment. So this is councillors, state and federal members, and the survey is open at the moment, and I'm sure the link will be shared through your show notes if that's possible. Yep. And it's open until the 1st of April. So I really encourage councillors, both current and former, to take part in this survey, because it is important that there's an evidence base around it, because a lot of the work we're doing is based on our experiences and conversations, and we need to get a better understanding around some of the data behind it.
Okay, so you've got till the 1st of April to fill that in. Mm-hmm. We will absolutely put those details in the show notes for the episode. Emma, thank you for thinking of us, for coming back and giving us a bit of a debrief, and congratulations on running the event. It's sorely needed, as you've described. Mm-hmm. And when you do your next one, let us know, and we'd love to be able to plug it here on the Roundup.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me back.
Let's wrap up this edition of the Roundup now with our global stories. Firstly, from New Zealand, Local Government New Zealand is warning that potential rates capping could backfire as council credit ratings take another hit. 18 councils and 3 council-controlled organisations have been downgraded by Standard & Poor's, who cite rising debt levels and an increasingly volatile policy environment. In a report from Radio New Zealand, LGNZ President Sam Broughton says examples from Australia show rate capping would have risks for councils' financial stability and unintended consequences on the ability to invest in infrastructure. He points to South Australia's transparency-focused approach as a better model than caps used in Victoria and New South Wales. Thousands of jobs could be at risk as English councils face a major reorganisation, according to the country's largest trade union and as reported by The Guardian. Unison's General Secretary Christina McInerney has issued a stark warning as local authorities submit their final proposals for council mergers this week. The shake-up will see county and district bodies combined into unitary authorities across 6 regions, with many lower-tier councils set to be abolished. Surrey Council has already voted to split into 2 authorities, resulting in the loss of 11 borough and district councils. McInerney has called on ministers to guarantee no compulsory redundancies and to protect workers' terms and conditions. City leaders across Britain are sounding the alarm over the growing divide between coastal and inland communities. A new report reveals that traditional seaside towns have faced half a century of decline, falling behind on everything from health outcomes to job opportunities. The report puts forward 28 recommendations to breathe new life into these struggling coastal areas. Artificial intelligence could be the key to unlocking massive savings for one local authority, according to Yahoo News. An internal report report prepared for Cheshire East Council suggests that implementing AI technology could save the council up to £60 million over the next 5 years. And a new survey reveals that local authorities in England and Wales are facing a staggering £17 billion backlog in pothole repairs, with over half of the local road network having less than 15 years of structural life remaining. Despite spending over £20 billion on carriageway maintenance in the past decade, including filling one pothole every 18 seconds, local authority highway teams report no improvement in network conditions. To the US, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, city leaders have unveiled an ambitious plan to tackle the growing challenge of homelessness. Mayor Munro Nichols has signed an executive order outlining several key initiatives aimed at achieving what officials call functional zero homelessness by 2030. The plan includes establishing a dedicated encampment decommissioning team, creating the city's first extended-use winter weather shelter, and expanding overall shelter capacity. This weekend, the city of Montgomery, Alabama, has been hosting a series of events to honour the 60th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March, a defining moment in the civil rights movement. The weekend events included the launch of the Voting Rights Trail Metaverse, a cutting-edge digital experience that allows people across the world to engage in the historic moment like never before. And finally, from Mexico, an historic vote that's sending shockwaves through the cultural landscape. Mexico's city lawmakers have voted overwhelmingly to ban violent bullfighting. The measure, passing with a decisive 61-1 vote, will prohibit the killing of bulls and the use of sharp objects in the ring. The Associated Press describes scenes outside the city's Congress building, which captured deep divisions as protesters from both sides gathered. Bullfighting supporters, including matadors, attempted to breach police barricades, while animal rights activists celebrated with stuffed bull dolls. The compromise legislation, dubbed Bullfighting Without Violence, allows the tradition to continue, but with strict new regulations. Mexico's bullfighting industry generates approximately $400 million annually and supports over 80,000 direct jobs. And that's the latest from the Roundup, this edition, number 443, recorded on Monday the 24th of March 2025. Your comments and feedback welcome, plus your story tips. You can send us an email at lgweeklynews@gmail.com. To find out more about this episode, including the story links, you can head to lgnewsroundup.com. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. And thanks to the many of you who make the podcast possible by supporting us through a monthly subscription. Support starts at $3 per month, less than $5 Australian, and you can cancel your subscription at any time. Details on the website or in your podcast player. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. I'm thrilled to welcome Symphony 3 to the Local Government News Roundup family. If you're a local council, you know how challenging it can be to manage data across all your different systems. That's where Symphony 3 comes in. They've developed Smart Glue, a platform that integrates over 55 council systems, automating data flow without the need for manual work. It turns confusion into simplicity. With Smart Glue, councils save time, reduce errors, and empower staff to focus on what really matters. Their clients see a real difference, up to 20% boost in productivity, with savings of over $30,000 per integration every year. Symphony 3 helps councils work smarter, faster, and more efficiently, all while better supporting the communities they serve.